Vivian Hayes had spent 15 years building a career on uncovering lies hidden inside numbers, but nothing in her professional life prepared her for the message that shattered her own. It arrived on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon while she was reviewing financial reports at her dining room table. Her phone buzzed once with a photo from her younger sister, Claire Bennett, followed immediately by a second notification that read, "Sorry, wrong person." Vivian frowned and opened the image anyway. The moment it filled her screen, the air disappeared from her lungs. Her husband, Adrian Hayes, stood inside a hospital room, smiling as he cradled two newborn babies wrapped in matching blue blankets. Beneath the photo was a caption that simply read, "Daddy finally gets his miracle." Vivian didn't cry. She didn't throw the phone or call either of them. Instead, the forensic accountant inside her quietly took control. She zoomed into the image. Adrian wasn't wearing the wedding ring he had refused to remove for 8 years. The timestamp embedded in the photo showed it had been taken 3 days earlier, even though Adrian had told her he was attending a logistics conference in another state. Then she noticed something even stranger. Reflected in the hospital window behind Claire was the blurred silhouette of a fourth person who had clearly been cropped out before the picture was sent. Someone important had been deliberately erased. Vivian slowly locked her phone and made dinner exactly as she always did. When Adrian came home later that evening, kissed her forehead, and casually talked about exhausting business meetings, she smiled and listened as if every word were true. That night, after he fell asleep beside her, she quietly walked downstairs, opened her laptop, and hired the city's most ruthless divorce attorney, Michael Donovan. During their first meeting the next morning, Michael expected tears and outrage. Instead, Vivian slid the photograph across his desk and calmly said, "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for the truth." Michael studied the image before looking back at her. "Then don't confront them yet," he advised. "People who think they've gotten away with something always make another mistake." Vivian nodded because she already knew that. Over the next 10 days, she became the invisible observer inside her own marriage. She tracked bank transfers, insurance policies, company expenses, hidden credit cards, and property records. Adrian had been moving money through several shell companies, but the transactions weren't funding an affair. They were paying for something much larger. Then another discovery stopped her cold. 6 months earlier, someone had rented a luxury apartment using Vivian's name, her social security number, and a forged signature so perfect that even she almost believed it. Someone wasn't just cheating on her. They were stealing her identity. Michael urged her to file immediately before the evidence disappeared, but Vivian shook her head. "Not yet," she whispered. "If they think I'm still blind, they'll lead me straight to whoever started this." The following Friday, she slipped a tiny GPS tracker into Adrian's briefcase. That evening, he claimed he had an emergency board meeting across town. Vivian followed from a safe distance, expecting him to drive to Claire's house, but instead, he headed toward the oldest cemetery in the city. Hidden beneath the branches of an oak tree, she watched Adrian kneel before a weathered gravestone and place fresh, white lilies against it. After several silent minutes, he walked away with tears in his eyes. Once his car disappeared, Vivian approached the grave herself. Her heart nearly stopped. The headstone belonged to a man named Lucas Mercer, listed as Claire Bennett's beloved husband. Vivian stared at the engraving in disbelief because Claire had never been married. She had known every chapter of her sister's life, or so she believed. As she reached out to touch the cold stone, her phone vibrated with an unknown number. She opened the message, and every drop of blood drained from her face. It contained only 7 words: "Leave the grave before you become the next one." Vivian didn't move. Every instinct told her to run, but another part of her, the part that had spent years exposing fraud worth millions, refused to leave until she understood why someone wanted her gone. She photographed the gravestone, copied the inscription, and quietly drove away before anyone could spot her. The next morning, Michael Donovan arranged for Detective Owen Reed, a retired financial crimes investigator, to meet her in secret. Within hours, Owen uncovered the first shocking twist. There was no legal record that Lucas Mercer had ever married Claire Bennett. In fact, according to state records, Lucas Mercer had died 12 years earlier in a boating accident hundreds of miles away. The cemetery record itself had been altered only 6 months ago, the exact same month Adrian began transferring money into hidden accounts. Vivian felt the puzzle changing shape. This wasn't simply an affair anymore. It was a carefully constructed deception. Owen dug deeper and discovered that the luxury apartment rented under Vivian's identity had been used to register several fake companies, all connected to Adrian's logistics business. Those companies had quietly laundered millions of dollars through fraudulent contracts, while every legal document carried Vivian's forged signature. She wasn't merely the betrayed wife. She had been set up as the perfect fall person. Before she could process that revelation, another bomb exploded. DNA records obtained through a court order revealed Adrian wasn't the biological father of Claire's twins. Claire herself had never known. She had genuinely believed Adrian was their father, while the real father turned out to be Victor Langston, Adrian's silent business partner, and the man secretly financing the entire money laundering operation. Adrian had been manipulated just as completely as Claire, believing the twins were his while Victor quietly secured control over the business empire from the shadows. Vivian finally confronted Claire in private, expecting denial, but instead found a broken woman who collapsed into tears after seeing the evidence. Claire admitted the affair, begged for forgiveness, and confessed Adrian had promised to leave Vivian only after one final business deal closed. She had never known Vivian's identity had been stolen or that the twins weren't Adrian's. Although Vivian could never forgive her sister's betrayal, she realized Claire had also been used as a pawn by men far more dangerous than either of them imagined. Rather than seeking revenge through anger, Vivian made one final move worthy of her profession. She anonymously delivered every financial record, every forged signature, every hidden transfer, every fake corporation, every hospital record, and every DNA report to federal prosecutors only days before the divorce hearing. On the morning of the trial, Adrian entered the courtroom expecting a routine divorce settlement. Claire sat quietly in the gallery holding the twins, while Victor Langston smiled confidently from the back row, believing his empire remained untouchable. Judge Eleanor Whitmore called the proceedings to order, but before anyone spoke, Michael Donovan stood and requested permission to submit newly discovered evidence. Large courtroom screens illuminated with hundreds of financial transactions connected by a single name, Vivian Hayes. Gasps echoed through the courtroom as Michael calmly explained that every signature had been forged without Vivian's knowledge. Before Victor could leave his seat, federal agents entered through the courtroom doors carrying arrest warrants for financial fraud, identity theft, tax evasion, conspiracy, and money laundering. Victor's smile vanished as handcuffs closed around his wrists. Adrian stared in disbelief while detectives informed him that although he had participated in fraudulent business practices, the investigation confirmed Victor had manipulated both him and Claire from the beginning. Reporters flooded the courthouse steps as Victor was escorted into a waiting vehicle. Adrian turned toward Vivian with tears filling his eyes. "I destroyed the only person who ever truly loved me," he whispered. Vivian looked at him without hatred, only quiet certainty. "No, Adrian," she replied. "You destroyed yourself the day you chose deception over honesty." She signed the final divorce papers without hesitation and walked away while cameras flashed behind her. 1 year later, Vivian stood inside the headquarters of her own forensic consulting firm, built with the settlement she earned legally and honestly. The first words every client saw engraved in the marble lobby were simple: "The truth always leaves a trail." She never sought revenge through cruelty or humiliation. She simply uncovered the truth so completely that every person who betrayed her was forced to face the consequences of their own choices. Looking out across the city's skyline, Vivian smiled for the first time in years, realizing the greatest victory was never watching her enemies fall. It was finally building a life where they no longer had the power to break her again.